Hey there, it is a brand new year, and that comes with an opportunity for a fresh start, not just in your personal goals, but in your relationship too. This week's theme is New Year, New Connection, and we're diving into 5 powerful relationship resolutions specifically designed for law enforcement couples. These resolutions are tailored to address the unique challenges you face as a couple, from hypervigilance and communication breakdowns to the strain of shift work and the stress of balancing 2 careers. We're going to dive into why these struggles happen and how each resolution can help. So grab a coffee, settle in, and let's explore how to make 2025 the year of deep connection and resilience. You're listening to the Code for Couples podcast.
Welcome to the Code for Couples podcast, focusing on topics for law enforcement officers and couples to keep you and your relationship connected, resilient, and Code 4. Now, your host, law enforcement expert Cindy Doyle, author of Hold the Line and My Wife.
Hey there. So welcome back to the Code for Couples podcast. I'm your host, Cindy Doyle. First, I want to say Happy New Year and tell you how excited I am about this year in Code for Couples. Man, last year I got to travel and train at departments nationwide. I presented at multiple conferences. It was really great to be able to encourage other couples and let them know how to improve their relationship and the spillover that happens into our relationship and how to counteract it. I worked with several departments, and with the the trainer program, they want to implement it. And so I'm still working with them to get that up and going for their wellness and their peer support teams. It was just really overwhelming, the activity that I had last year, and I'm so excited to continue to work with departments and peer support and wellness teams throughout the nation to help y'all implement the information that law enforcement couples, spouses, and families really need to know to keep their relationship safe, which also keeps their officers safe on the job. So I'm just really excited about that. But let me also tell you why I'm excited this year. The last couple weeks of 2024, I actually took the time to plan the year for you. I have never done that. I've always kind of done things by the seat of my pants. And this year, I really wanted to be intentional and purposeful about the content that I'm putting out to y'all. And I am so excited about it. So this year, I'm giving you weekly content. The second thing I'm doing this year is I am back to writing a lot of the content myself and not leaning so much on interviews. I did that a lot last year because I was wanting to get content out, and I love sharing resources with you. I will incorporate some interviews, but just not as often as I did last year. I'm going to really put out more of my individual content and also make podcasts shorter. I want y'all to get through them and not have to listen to 45 minutes worth of information. Even I like listening to 45 minutes in a podcast. I'm like, unless it's something really engaging, like I'm kind of into the Exorcist files. I'm that girl. But like I can listen to those, but sometimes those I'm listening to it like 1.5 or 2 times speed. So I want to make sure that it's good content and things that you can listen to while you're on your drive, or you have the kids in the bath, or at lunch, whatever you're going to do, that it's going to be meaningful and purposeful. I'm trying to be more intentional with that. Third, I am going to have a lot of new free downloads. I have had my free download content out for quite a while, and I'm revamping, probably going to get rid of the 5 essential elements guide. So I'm really excited about the free content that I'm going to put out throughout the year. And there's also going to be a few paid products that will complement and add to the content in my book. So that's some of the stuff that I'm really excited about this year. My resolution, because, new year, that kind of stuff. My resolution to you this year is to show up and to show up consistently. It's something that I really worked on the last 2 years, and I hope that what I am producing for you in your relationship over the next year is really going to be helpful. I hope that you will consistently listen. And like I've said before, the greatest gift that I can have is for y'all to share this with people if you like the content. If you like what I'm putting out, share it with other people. Make sure they're accessing it. The reason why I do this for free for y'all is because I want to change your relationships. So it's stuff that I put out there because I want to impact you and impact your relationship. So if you like it, share it. And reflecting the past year, like I said, I've been really focused on consistency. And that also means consistently working on my relationship. It's been challenging with travel schedules, but it's something that we all have to do. And sometimes it's really hard to be consistent with the demands of a law enforcement lifestyle, with shifts, with stressors, with kids, with activities, with, maybe as a spouse, maybe you're on the road like I have been. So it's really hard to be consistent at times, but without that consistency, without those consistent check-ins in our relationships do start to drift, our connection starts to fade, and we have to continually work on it. So, to prevent that, here are my top 5 resolutions for your law enforcement relationship. We're going to get into these. One of the biggest problems in law enforcement relationships with couples is our lack of regular, meaningful communication between the long hours, between missed connections. There would be years where my husband would be sleeping in bed and I would be at work. And by the time I got home, he'd be gone. So those hours, the unpredictable schedules, the emotional weight of the job, it's just really easy to lose track of each other. And over time, this creates distance. When we aren't connecting, we can sometimes misunderstand what each other's intentions are, or behaviors, or communications are. And it leads to feelings of isolation. Like we both, as a couple, feel isolated. I thought I was isolated all the time. And I've said this a couple times that it was only when I started talking to my husband about some things that I realized that he was feeling lonely and isolated too. So here's resolution number 1. Create a weekly connection check-in ritual. I want you to create some kind of ritual on a weekly basis that will provide some connection. So this year, what I'm suggesting is that you commit to 20 minutes to a weekly check-in. So that's it, 20 minutes. Set aside time, whether it's over coffee or going on a walk, exercising together, or before bed, and talk about how you're feeling. What's been challenging? What's been going well? What are you looking forward to? Who's annoying you? Hopefully not each other, but what's coming up in your schedule? Try to avoid the logistics and talk about you. Talk about what you're looking forward to. Talk about really like how you're feeling. Ask each other what's one thing that you can just do to support each other during the week. So, what's one thing I can do to support you this week? And this isn't a time to really solve problems or bring up conflicts. It's a time to connect and understand where the other person is emotionally. So, it's a simple ritual. It's just 20 minutes. And you just want to make sure that you're staying on the same page. Gottman would call this a love map. So you want to make sure you have a GPS and not a MapsCo or a MapQuest. Some people don't know what MapsCos are, but I think everybody knows MapQuest still. So you want to have a relationship GPS. So doing this 20-minute check-in will allow you to have an accurate GPS system with each other. So problem number 2. Hypervigilance. It's very necessary for the job. And what I always say, what goes up must come down. And so when an officer is coming home, it's going to be that downside of hypervigilance. And so they look or really are emotionally disconnected. It can lead to irritability. Officers sometimes feel like they're on edge, but at home, we're like, hello, are you there? It makes it hard for couples to connect and sometimes transition into home life. It can lead to frustration and conflict. We have to be aware and understand that downside of hypervigilance, the brain is going to be tired, but we can't just over accommodate it, right? We don't want to enable the bad behavior. And, maybe you have a stressful job as a spouse. Maybe you are a full-time parent and these kids drive you bananas sometimes. Or, maybe you're just keyed up from the day. So, resolution number 2, I want you to practice some kind of shift reset ritual together. And I have a recommendation for this. So, here's what it looks like. It's a 6-step process. The first one is to do some kind of a quick check-in over text of an emoji. Like, send an emoji. What is your day like? Are you on fire and you're feeling great? Are you dead? I use the emoji of like a air puff sometimes, like, oh, or sometimes it's I know there's controversy about doing thumbs up sometimes, but for me, it's a thumbs up or a high five, or maybe I'll send a meme or a GIF, whatever you call it. I have some of those that I use, but basically do some kind of a communication that way. It doesn't have to be a text. It can just be a quick emoji. And actually, I would prefer it not be a text. I would prefer it to just be like, hey, this is how I'm feeling. How are you feeling? How's the house? But do that really quickly. I was doing a training in the fall this year, and somebody was telling me, I was going over this, and they were saying, yeah, my spouse wants to talk to me the whole way home. And I just kind of need that time to unwind and get my brain right so when I get home. So I really, really recommend don't do the download on the way home. Give each other some time to do that decompression in some way when you're away home. So number 1, do a quick emoji or GIF or whatever you call it, back and forth with each other. 2, sip on some water on the way home. What that does is it lets your body know it's time to wind down. That fight or flight response calms down when you start sipping water. 3, talk about, or not talk about, but think about how you want to show up for the people waiting for you at home. So what's the kind of, I always say pet parent. What kind of pet parent do you want to be? What kind of parent do you want to be? What kind of spouse do you want to be? What kind of roommate do you want to be? What kind of sibling or kiddo, if you're walking into parents? How is it that you want to show up for these people at home? These people at home really love you. And so you hitting the door and being a grumpapuss isn't very helpful. So they've been waiting for you. How do you want to greet each other? And that goes for the people waiting at home too. Like, how do you want to show up for that person who's hitting the door? If it's an officer or a spouse, at home, how do you want to show up for that person who's hitting the door, maybe coming in from a long day? Number 4 here, I am going to recommend giving a 10-second hug when you see each other. The reason why is that starts to calm your nervous system down, and it tells your nervous system like, "Hmm." And if you can do 15 or 20 seconds, that's fine. But I'm telling you, count out a solid 10 seconds and you're going to be like, this is awkward. It's very intentional, but it really does help. Number 5, determine ahead of time how much time you have to kind of unwind, change clothes, breathe, shake off the day, shower, whatever you're going to do. Sometimes people don't have much time at all. And you don't want one partner taking advantage of that. You want to have a conversation about that ahead of time. Like, what is it? What is that going to look like? Do you have 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Do you need to get changed quickly and then come out and start cooking, but your family knows like, hey, that's your decompression time? So determine what that looks like ahead of time. And then number 6, this is often the most ignored or left out part, is that you have to re-engage with your family. You have to figure out how you want to engage with the family. And on that downside of hypervigilance, you might not be able to have a really in-depth conversation. Don't expect your spouse on that downside of hypervigilance to make decisions. Even if you've had a stressful day with kids or at the office yourself, usually making hard decisions that's not the time to do it. Maybe you engage with some small talk, you catch up with each other, maybe you work on those love maps with each other. That 20 minutes that we talked about, just share something about your day. Or sometimes you can, like, maybe that's the time that the kids cuddle up in your lap and curl up and get some good connection and hugs. So that's my 6-step process for doing a shift reset ritual, some kind of ritual to work through that. But resolving that can reset your nervous system. It calms everybody down and it signals to each other that you're ready to engage and connect, not just physically, but emotionally as well. The next problem is shift work, overtime, stress, right? So between shift work, overtime, family responsibilities, many times law enforcement couples often struggle to find time together. And when we do, exhaustion or distractions like phone or TV can get in the way. We scroll on our phones rather than engage with each other. And it creates a cycle where even when we spend time together, it feels unfulfilling. So, resolution number 3 is prioritize quality time over quantity of time. So, instead of focusing on how much time you get to spend together, focus on meaningfulness of that time. A short, intentional moment of connection can be more powerful than hours spent distracted. For example, being mindful of the distractions or multitasking when you're communicating with your partner, and ask about your partner's day. Share something meaningful about your day. And don't forget to listen for the feeling, reflect that feeling. How are they feeling? How are they doing? But also, when you have that quality time, find ways to start conversation quickly or do an activity quickly when you have face-to-face time. So, one of the things I suggest is do a brainstorm of those things and throw them into a jar, throw them into a list, and pull one out so you can just start doing something, whether that's a puzzle, whether that's, hey, let's talk about this trip, let's research this. I'm a nerd. I research stuff like trip. We like to travel. So we research trips is what we do a lot of times. But another thing that we've started doing too is, even on that downside, is we do Wordle. So together we'll work on the Wordle, and it's fun. It feels like a ritual that we have to do our quality time. It's just good to make sure you're doing something quality over quantity, because that quality time doesn't have to be a big production. What matters is that you're present with each other, even in those small moments. Even if there's a show that you want to watch and you're intentional about the show, it's those small moments and that connection that you have with each other. Number 4 has to do with stress. And stress overload is constant in our law enforcement relationships and our law enforcement lifestyle. For couples where both partners work full time, the demand of kids or chores, unexpected crisis, it can just feel like a lot. And then add in the weight of job related trauma, and it's easy to see how law enforcement couples get burnt out and resentment gets built. So, resolution number 4 is to create a stress tag team play. So, create a play in which you can, like, tag team. That's the best way I can describe it, off of each other. So, this resolution is about teamwork. What I want you to do is sit down together and create a plan for handling stress as a unit. Decide how you're going to share responsibilities when one of you is overwhelmed. For example, if one partner had a particularly tough day and maybe the other can take over bedtime routines or handle dinner or offer some kind of emotional support. Having that tag team approach ensures that no one feels like they're carrying the entire burden alone. And what I really recommend is that you create a code word or a signal that says, "Hey, I need backup. I'm drowning here." So you're both clear about when you need help, and don't criticize each other. Like, sometimes people start to get stressed out. You've got to use that code word and do it before you're reaching your tipping point, right? Let people know, "Hey, I am starting to feel overwhelmed." Whether that, I had a couple one time that their code word was Snickers. I had another one, I think I've shared this one. One of them was Whataburger and Taco Bell, because that was their first argument of where they were gonna go eat. So they use that. So just use a code word to say, "I need backup, I need to tag out." and help each other out. This not only reduces stress, but also strengthens the sense of partnership and support that you have in your relationship. So that's number 4. And last, number 5, many couples wait until there's a major problem before they seek help or check in on the health of their relationship. For law enforcement couples, the high stress nature of the job can really magnify even the smallest issues because we're not around each other. Communications can be challenging. So those small issues can be bigger over time because we don't have an opportunity to talk about them. So resolution number 5 is to schedule regular relationship tune-ups. Proactive is key. That's what we're going for. I have a couple different suggestions. One, if you make it a resolution to do a checkup on your health, Dr. Gottman has something called the relationship poop detector. Yes, poop detector. Basically, what's stinking and smelling? What's starting to create poop piles? Is there something you haven't talked about? Are you noticing something about your partner that's giving you concern? Are you not connecting as much as you want to physically? Clearing out all those problems before they fester and start to smell is really important. And you want to do this, I would say weekly, but at least at a minimum monthly. The other suggestion I have is to do a quarterly State of the Union discussion where you reflect on what is working and maybe what needs improvement. And that can be the relationship, it can be the budget, it can be, communication with the in-laws, better eating habits, scheduling shopping times or menus. It can be whatever you want. But you're doing that check-in to find out what's working and what needs improving. And of course, you can always consider having a couples counselor or working with peer support in some way where you do a check-in. Think of your relationship like a car. You're going to have to do regular maintenance on the car. You're going to have big breakdowns. So that's what all of these are about, is regular maintenance. You want to stay ahead of things. And all of these resolutions can prevent bigger problems coming up in the future. And it shows your commitment to each other and keeps your relationship strong and resilient. So 5 resolutions. 1, weekly connection check-ins. Keep the communication flowing and prevent emotional distance. 2, the shift reset ritual helps you transition from work mode to home mode, reducing tension and increasing emotional availability. 3, prioritizing quality time makes the moments you have together more meaningful, even with a busy schedule and stress. 4, the stress tag team plan creates a partnership approach to handling life's challenges. And 5, the relationship tune-ups, addressing those smaller issues before they become big problems, ensuring that long-term connection that we really need. Resolutions are really just goals, right? They're a roadmap for creating stronger, healthier, and more connected relationships in this year. I hope that this helps to set your year off right. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm excited to give you all the content that I have planned for the year, and I hope you will stick with me. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with any of your other fellow law enforcement officers or spouse or couples that you might think would benefit from these resolutions. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast updates and check out my newly redesigned website at code4couples.com. Until next time, guys, keep it Code4. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. For more information about the podcast or Cindy, check out code4couples.com. All intellectual property rights owned by CRLD2 Ventures, LLC, are protected by the firm of 9mm, 45 ACP, 5.56mm, and 12 gauge.